Hey guys, it's Alan from Eventide here with Justin Adams. How you doing, Justin?
Yeah, very good, thanks.
Excellent. Good to see you. And today we're at the Capitol Theater in upstate New York, and you're playing with Robert Plant.
I am, yeah, and it's a pretty historic venue, I believe. I think Janis Joplin, Hendrix, the Dead a lot have played here, and it's sort of one of those venues. We played here a year ago, and it's just got quite a vibe. It's good.
It's definitely a cool vintage theater.
Yeah, it's a proper old theatre.
With a lot of vibe.
The best kind of place to play, really.
Sensational Space Shifters, ladies and gentlemen. How's the tour going so far?
That's great. We basically, for about 3 years, we've been touring on and off. Before that, I was in another band with Robert, which was called Strange Sensation, so similar name and similar lineup. But then there was a gap where Robert was working in the States with Alison Krauss and then a band called the Band of Joy. Mm-hmm. And now he's back with us, mostly English guys in the band. I say mostly English. There's one West African guy called Jules de Camera who plays like a one-string fiddle. The drummer comes from a kind of more of a jazz background. He's never really played rock in his life before.
Wow.
We've got John Baggett, who is a real expert in kind of loops and distorted, sampling Moogs, but he also plays beautiful piano. We've got Skin Tyson, who's a kind of psychedelic guitarist who uses open tunings and a lot of effects and finger-picking acoustic guitar. And then we've got a pretty good singer too.
So I've heard. That's so cool.
Yeah. No, it's very exciting. The thing is about Robert Plant is he keeps things creative and moving. It's not a show where the band could be decked out to any musician so long as you know the parts. We don't rehearse for weeks before we go out on the road. The set lists change a lot. He's doing it because he loves doing it, and so it's a really creative gig, and he doesn't mind if things occasionally fall flat on their faces, so long as it's trying to do something really beautiful and something really kind of inspiring.
Wow.
Yeah.
Organic.
Yeah, it's pretty organic. Yeah, pretty organic. And we try to sort of, obviously we're aware a lot of people are coming because of they grew up with the records, and we try to give them all the sort of thrill of it, but at the same time make it something that's alive and not like a retro nostalgia show, but something that's really got the full spirit of adventure that the great musicians of the late 60s and 70s, who would by no means doing a kind of industry style nostalgia show. They were really actually interested in breaking the boundaries and making some transcendental music. We're trying to make music in that spirit.
Wow.
And sometimes in the middle of a song we'll just go off on a complete tangent, and or we might be playing an old blues tune and Robert will drop in a bit of another old blues tune, but that everybody knows because Led Zeppelin did it.
Yeah.
And so it's more like a big kind of collage in which Robert's history figures a lot, but at the same time it goes to lots of other places which you wouldn't expect. I mean the kind of two big elements that you might not expect is one, the element of kind of electronica and dub and that kind of thing, and also of like roots African trance music. So both of those elements are right in there, which is.
That's a cool combo.
But as I say, you will hear lots of the old tunes, in the show as well.
Cool. So does he trip you guys up ever with some of these last minute changes?
Yeah, he'll do that.
Yeah.
I mean, not as much as I've heard that Dylan will just or we'll just kind of nod round to one member of the band, call the next tune, and it'll be playing it in a completely different key. It's not like that.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, even tonight's set list has got a couple of tunes which we were like, hey, really? Are we going to do that? And so that's why quickly go down to the sound check, trying to remember how to play them, and then also he just encourages us to kind of surprise each other and just change things mid gig. So if somebody suddenly just does something, the idea is we go with it, rather than go, oh, it's wrong, you made a mistake.
Yeah. So every guitar player out there probably wants to know what it's like standing next to him playing guitar.
It's really, I'm really aware of how privileged I am to do it, and it's so exciting. And what I feel sometimes is that I'm standing next to somebody who's in the lineage of Little Richard, Howling Wolf, Elvis Presley. He's really from that gene pool. He really is one of the people who define, and it's so exciting. It really is exciting. What's exciting is if you give him something, he gives it back times 10. So if you really play with a bit of extra kind of expression or imagination or something like that, he'll give it you back, and you're like, he can knock you for six. He really can. But it's incredible. It's good. I mean, when I first got the gig, I was scared. I've got to say, and especially because I'm not somebody who grew up studying Jimmy Page. I don't really play in that traditional kind of English, or what became a tradition of the sort of English blues rock guitarist. I never really learnt to play like that. I've got some weird obsessions and musical interests that I've kind of followed much stronger than that. I've always obviously been aware of that whole, Page, Clapton, Beck thing, but really wasn't my thing. My thing was more, I've really studied North African music, West African music, reggae. I came from a kind of new wave background, but I think those are the reasons why Robert got me into the band. They were,
from the style of music that you guys that you mentioned, that sounds perfect.
Yes, exactly. So that and that shows he's a pretty creative guy.
And apart from playing with these guys, you also have your own musical projects.
Yeah, I do quite a few things. Over the years, I used to play in a band with a guy called Jar Wobble years ago, who used to be in Public Image, who was the original Public Image bassist. And in that band, that's when we first started to explore using these kind of Arabic sounds and these big, heavy, trancey rhythms, sometimes electronic, and then from that, I worked with Sinead O'Connor for a few years.
Cool.
And then I started working with various African and Arab artists, and worked with a fantastic group from the Sahara Desert called Tinarawen, and another group called Terrakaft, again from the desert, producing records from them. And then with the West African guy who's in our band, Julde, I had a band called Juju that made 3 albums, exploring these connections between West African and blues music, and
So cool.
Yeah. When I worked with Wobble years ago in the studio, there was, I guess it must have been a new H3000 Eventide harmonizer, and I can remember times when we would just plug the guitar direct into that if we wanted to get some sounds that completely. I suppose it was the time, of people like John Hassel and Talking Heads were making Remain in Light and those kind of sounds, and you could find these amazing things with harmonizers and delays that I started to work with. So that's always put those kind of Eventide sounds in my head. And then Lou Edmonds has recently been, who's a great friend of mine, using stuff with Pill. And then I saw in a magazine that you had this pedal like this size that had everything in it. It was like, whoa!
How is that possible?
How is that possible? So when I saw what you've got with the H9 with that, just such a broad palette of tweakability, and that it's so you've got the basically infinitely programmable. Robert's very sonic person. It's a sound that he could just hear one chord, but if it's got a really some special sound to it, then that's what's going to make him want to sing. And so my plan is to really get into it and start programming and making some crazy sounds.
Space Shift with
Yeah,
Robert
exactly,
Plant.
exactly. Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and the Eventide H9. Why not?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, touch wood, we're going to make an album. We'll see. You never know what will happen, but the plan is that we'll make an album. And I think hopefully we'll be back out on the road next year, probably in the spring.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look for you guys. We'll hopefully look for a new album and
Yeah.
keep it up. This is so exciting.
Thanks. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Justin.
coming down.
Thank you.